Hello, I am Kate Tichina, you are watching InstaForex News. The threat of the currency intervention remains as strong as usual. The Japanese government has just pointed to the fact that it asked its colleagues in America and Europe to help restraining of the yen growth to the 14 years maximum against the dollar last Friday, and the currency pair sharply reversed at that moment. Nevertheless, the effect of such verbal intervention from Tokyo unlikely will be continuing too long, and the yen will resume its upward trend. The Japanese objections against increase of the yen raise doubts. Of course, the yen strengthening makes difficult the life of the Japanese exporters, especially in conditions of the already resumed deflationary pressure. However, the new government has already announced that for Japan it is necessary to orient in a greater degree to consumer, but not to the export. Besides, though the yen probably is growing against the dollar, the trade-weighted index of the Japanese currency versus all major currencies is still for 14% lower than the maximum of 1995. Concerning the help from the part of the USA, then it should be forgotten about. In Washington could continue to talk about their striving to the strong dollar, but the reduction of the trade-weighted index of the dollar to the 15-month minimum last week disproves this. The USA, recovering from the recession and dealing with low inflationary pressure, are very happy to have the weak currency, which helps to increase the profit from the export. Anyway, in order the intervention, coordinated or not, gives a result, the correction of the monetary policy in the same way is needed. Then this should not be expected. The Bank of Japan clearly gives to understand that it is inclined to end the extreme softening of the monetary policy and to continue it, whereas published last week minutes of the FRS meeting showed that in the foreseeable future the US Central Bank is planning to maintain the interest rates at their level this day. Probably Tokyo can reckon on the communique of the G7, in which, as well as in the last year, will be started the common concernment of the yen strength. Meanwhile, the upward pressure on the yen unlikely will stop. Taking into account the present situation in Dubai and probable repatriation of the Japanese investors' assets against the background of the foreign markets' attractions lowering, it can be concluded that during next weeks the USD GPI pair could drop till the rate of 18 yen, no matter how strong the Japanese government would protest. It was Forex News provided to you by InstaForex News team and me, Kate Tichina. Goodbye.